Okay, this is Garrett Moore, and this is my D&E lesson plan. So for my D&E, I chose the TEAC, or I'm doing science for 8th grade, and I chose the TEAC 8.11a, which is investigate how organisms and populations in an ecosystem depend on and may compete for biotic factors such as food and abiotic factors such as quantity of light, water, range of temperatures, or soil composition. My content objective is the students will be able to explain the differences in abiotic and biotic factors as well as how they relate to the environment. My ELPS is 3D, which is speak using grade level content area vocabulary in context to internalize new English words and build academic language proficiency. So for my language objective, I said that students will be able to orally describe the difference between abiotic and biotic factors and what they are. So my key vocabulary, I've got 5 or 6 words for key vocabulary, and for my vocabulary preview strategy, I'm going to have the vocabulary words written on the word wall and go over them with the class. So my concepts are abiotic factors, biotic factors, ecosystems, organisms, and competition. My strategies that I'm going to use to review these key lesson content concepts is the word wall review, quick writes, a graphic organizer, a one-pager, and a 3-2-1 activity at the end. My higher order question for the intermediate level in ELPS is, what examples are there for abiotic factors in the environment? So to open the class, I'm going to have the kids come in and kind of do a bell ringer as an opening activity. They're going to do a quick write. They're going to have 2 minutes to write everything they know about biotic and abiotic factors. So they're going to get just like a note card or a blank sheet of paper that's going to kind of look like this. And it's just going to have the prompt written on it. And with that, they're going to have 2 minutes just to write all the abiotic factors they can, or everything they know about biotic and abiotic factors. And I'm going to make sure that they know it's okay if they don't know much. They're not supposed to know much. We're going to learn about it. So they're going to have that. And then after that activity, I'll take everybody's papers and we're going to do a word wall review. And with the word wall review, I'm going to make sure every student has a copy of the vocabulary words that are written on the word wall. So they'll get a sheet of paper that looks like this, and they can use a highlighter and highlight key things if they need to. And what I'll do is first, I will read the word wall and go through the definitions. And then after I read it, I'm going to go back and I'm going to basically do a strategy where I read part and then I'll have them read the second part on everything, so I make sure that they're focused and being attentive. And for my accommodations for these 2 activities, I will write the words on the wall, like I said, to provide visuals. I'm going to provide students with their own copy of the vocabulary words. I will have the students read the words aloud and together. That way, too, I'll differentiate if a student is not confident in themselves with reading. They will have these other students reading, too, to kind of boost their confidence and they won't be singled out. And I will model reading the words by reading them first and then having them reading second. For my feedback, I'll use the students' previous knowledge in the quick write. So my guided practice, I have the students making a graphic organizer in their notes. So what they'll do is they'll use the internet to research different biotic and abiotic factors and what they are and how they work with the environment, and basically just get a general concept and knowledge of what they are and how important they are. And the students will get these concepts and they can collaboratively work with their table groups of 3 or 4 people, and they'll make a graphic organizer to use for a later on activity. So they can make any type of graphic organizer. I used a Venn diagram that I will provide to the students as an example. And basically, they will just use this Venn diagram example, and they can do a Venn diagram. They can do a different kind if they want to, but they'll have that, and I'll model that for them and have that visual so they can see how it looks. And while they're working together on making their graphic organizer and putting it all together, I'll walk around the room and make sure they're getting on the right track and they're finding the information that they need to, and they don't get off track with it. And then after that, they're gonna use that to make the one-pager activity that we're about to do. So for the assessment for that, it's just gonna be their graphic organizer, just walking around and making sure that they're doing what they need to. My accommodations and modifications and differentiation for that, I'm gonna read the instructions out loud. I'll provide another copy of instructions if the students need one. I'll just print copies of my instructions. I will provide a visual example of the graphic organizer like I've shown. I'll model how it works. I'll explain the Venn diagram and how why I put this where I did. And that's it for that. And then for the independent practice, I'm going to have students create a one-pager over the Venn diagram. Now this one-pager is going to be basically, they're all going to be in charge of their own one-pager, but they can use the collaborative notes. So I want to see different kinds of creativity with each kid, and I want to see these kids really like their creative side shown here. So what they're going to do is take those notes and make a one-pager. It's got to include at least 2 illustrations and just some important stuff that they've learned. And I'll walk around, provide help as needed, and I'll provide an example of a one-pager that I've got right here. And I can provide this for them as a visual and model it and show them how I did it and why I did what I did. And I'll walk around and provide help as needed. And the students, after they finish that, will move on to, or if they finish that during class, they'll move on to this 3-2-1 activity I've got, which is just over everything they've learned today. It's 3 things they've learned, 2 things they found interesting, and 1 question they might still have. So they can do that if they finish. If not, it's homework. It shouldn't take them very long to complete, so it's not too much homework that they would have, but it would just use the rest of the class time. For accommodations and modification for the independent practices, I'd provide visuals for both. I'd model both like I have, and I'd print out instructions like the 3-2-1 activity. I would print out copies for everybody. That way they wouldn't have to remember exactly what to put for that activity. So that is the thorough lesson plan. I feel like with my lesson plan, I've used Wicker in all aspects. Writing is very heavily enforced in all the activities. Inquiry, looking stuff up on the internet, has been used. Collaboration with the graphic organizer, they've done a collaborative activity. Organization with the one-pager, they've had to organize all their thoughts and show me on a page. And reading, looking stuff up on the internet and reading the vocabulary words to understand them. So I feel like I've used all aspects of Wicker. Avid strategy-wise, I used a quick write, a one-pager, a graphic organizer, and a 3-2-1. So basically all the strategies are Avid strategies that I've incorporated. And I used some Learning Center instructional attributes. I used collaborative learning as well as cooperative learning, inquiry, and research-based learning, and several formative assessments.